Hello, friends, and welcome to the Barely Bookish podcast. Right off the bat today, I am going to apologize if I sound a little nasally. It's just going to be for this post-recorded beginning part. The rest of the episode will be fine. I just have a stuffy nose. I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize if I sound kind of weird. And if you're like, "Oh my god, I didn't even notice until she said anything," I'm self-conscious about it, so I'm going to put the announcement anyways. Anyways, um, yeah, so this week we're going to do something a little different. We are, I'm going to be sharing a little snippet that is going on Patreon. So Rebecca F. Kenney and I discussed her book, Captain Pan and Wendy Darling, over on Patreon. That was posted yesterday, just a Patreon exclusive episode. And then this is going to be the interview part afterwards. So if you want to hear about Rebecca's books, please consider joining the Patreon and please consider reading them first because there will be spoilers ahead for this episode. So just try and keep that in mind. I just don't want anybody to get spoilers. But these books are really, really good. They're Peter Pan retellings, and I hope you will enjoy the interview and all that good stuff. But yeah, please consider joining the Patreon. It helps support the podcast, and you get a lot of cool exclusive bonus episodes. I think there's about a year's worth of exclusive episodes at this point, because I've been doing this for a while. So yeah, lots of cool content on there, and then this will give you a little sneak peek of what's that's like. So yeah, next week we will be discussing the Aeneid, so if you have not read the Aeneid yet, you can read it if you want to. Otherwise, you don't have to. You could just listen to the episodes. And I'll give you all my opinion on that. But without further ado, let's get into the episode where we discuss Rebecca Kenney's books.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the interview questions.
Okay.
I guess I could just start off with what made you decide that Michael should be a musician? So we left off there.
I don't know. I guess I wanted him and John to have gone very different ways with their lives after, Wendy just kind of took like a normal medium sort of job. Mm-hmm. And John, he did the whole psychologist thing, because he's trying to deal with his memories of Neverland. Mm-hmm. And then, Michael just goes off into the musician's lifestyle, like the booze and maybe drugs. I don't know. And putting Neverland stuff in his song lyrics and whatever. So I guess it was just having them each deal with it a different way, because obviously it would deeply affect all of them.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
So I also want to know, have you ever gone back to see what people highlight in your books?
I have in one of them. I think that the Gargoyle Prince is the one I went. I don't think I've ever looked at the Peter Pan and
they're books. Very good. Let me see if I can actually just pull.
I should check out the highlights. That'd be fun to look at.
Let me see if I can pull some up really quick for you.
Okay.
So you can appreciate them. Oop. Because honestly, I like quotes that are tattooable. I don't have any tattoos, but I like the option.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these are tattooable.
Aw.
Oh, here we go. I found some. Okay, here's the two most popular right now. Okay, page 232. I broke without you, Wendy. My soul was gutted. You are, damn you, is one of the most popular ones. And then the other one is, oh my God, I whispered. He took my chin in his other hand. Not God, he said, say my name. And I'm like,
oh, right.
So I
was wondering if that would be too cliche, because I know other people have done that in their books too. Having the girls swear, and then he's like, no, not God, me.
I love that.
I love that trope though. So I was like, I'll do it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good ones in Captain Pan that were also highlighted.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, do that, because you're gonna be like, it feels
like if I'm feeling low one day, I'll go read the highlights. Oh, people like my words.
You can also see how many people have highlighted it too, which is kind of cool. which I've never actually highlighted in Kindle before. Like I kind of
I don't usually do that either.
yeah.
I'm usually too like in it. I'm like, sometimes I'll pause and I'll read a thing again. And I'll be like, that was so good. And I'll read it over again, but I don't usually highlight it.
Yeah. I usually just take notes on my like notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I write specific quotes, I do it that way.
Yeah.
But I like that I can see everyone's highlights, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
fun because I'm like,
That's neat.
ooh, that is a good line.
Yes. Yes.
So when you were writing this, did you decide to base it more off the movie, or were you trying to go for the book, or were you kind of mixing both?
I think, you know, my whole liking for Peter Pan started when I was a kid, like seeing the movie, and kind of like crushing on Peter a little bit. But when I was writing it, I think I went more for the vibe of the original book as far as like just the tone of it and the the like wonky like stuff you don't expect, and the dark parts and like a little bit of the fae aspect.
Mhm.
So I would say probably more the book. The book, I know it's supposed to be a kid's book, but like we talked about, it feels more adult. It
Yeah,
honestly does. So, yeah,
I'm not committed to it being a kid's book.
right.
I don't believe it.
Yeah. So I would say, less the Disney movie, probably.
Yeah, I feel like the Disney movie, like while it shows kind of Peter's brutal side, it's like really glossed over.
It really is. Yeah, it
But
makes it a lot more fun, and you can understand why, but
mhm.
yeah.
um, I also was wondering, is there a reason you decided to like switch up all the Lost instead of it just being Lost Boys? You made it like Lost Kids and the twins. So,
Yeah, I wanted it to be. I wanted there to be some girls in there. Since I'm having him basically rescue the kids before Hook can get to them.
mhm,
I figured they wouldn't all be boys. And like, why were they? In the original, it's like, oh, the girls are too smart to fall out of their
mhm. Cradle,
prams or whatever. What is it? Yeah, cradle.
I
I
think
forget what
so.
it. Um. So yeah, I just wanted a more diverse,
Mhm,
group of lost kids, and so they're like all different, and like you've got the twins are girls not boys, and they're they've all got powers,
mhm.
some that they manifested later when they aged up.
I like
So
that for the twins it's like, oh, one could totally be a copy of the other and no one's gonna
mhm.
ever know.
Nobody knows.
Could be. It could
Hmm.
be. I don't even know if the twins know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know. So
You're like, I'll know when they reveal it, I guess. Isn't that the fun part about writing? Is like
it
I
is.
feel like everyone expects you to always have all the answers. And then you're like, I
Right.
literally have no idea.
Yes. And I mean, sometimes I have these things in the back of my head that I don't necessarily put in, but that I know. But then other things, it's like, well, do I have to figure that out? Is it important to the plot? Maybe not. So I
Yeah.
just let it go. Not going to spend brain cells on it yet, unless it comes up in another book later, and then I'll sort it out.
I know there was a conversation a while ago too where it was like there's books where it's like this book only exists to tell this story, and then like some books where there's the whole universe exists but this is just a
Mm-hmm.
story that's happening. And I feel
Yeah,
like it's not wrong to just have this story only, like this universe only exists for this story.
sure.
Like I feel like everyone
Yeah,
wants to flesh out an entire universe and sometimes we just don't need that much
yeah,
storytelling.
yeah. I think either one can be fun. It
Hmm.
honestly just depends on the mood you're in. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, I'm a big mood reader
Hmm.
anyway, so I'm like, yeah,
Like I love an 1,000-page fantasy novel as much as the next one, but also I can't always read an 1,000-page fantasy novel for
exactly.
funsies.
Exactly. Sometimes you just feel like digging into something that rich, and sometimes you just need something that's like, it's got depth to it, but it's like
Mhm.
lighter, and you can just you don't your poor brain doesn't have to work so hard to keep everything straight.
I sometimes call like some of these books that I read my reality television
Mm-hmm.
novels, which are just
Yes.
like guilty pleasures that like
Yes.
there's so little stakes, but you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel good reading this.
Yes. Yes. And that is awesome too.
Hmm. So, yeah, we kind of talked about this, but like the eyeball of the Slough, where you said this came from like Celtic.
So the Slough is like, obviously I changed it up,
Mhm.
and made it look different, but they're like a sort of a death creature in Celtic mythology. And so I just made them like way bigger and like made them be composed of, you know, evil souls that are like that weren't worthy of going to Hades underworld, you know, to live. And so they're like the worst souls that ever existed, and they've all kind of glommed together in these giant monstrous magical creatures. And the reason I had them do the eyeball thing is because I didn't want it to be too easy to travel from world to world. So I'd have something there, and I have rules for it, but I feel like that's one of those things that I went through the rules and got them all set up in my head. And now if you ask me to repeat the rules for like when you need an eyeball and when you don't, I probably couldn't repeat it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, just skip over that part. Just, you know, it's been figured out, I think. I think I figured it out properly.
Well, I think...
But
sorry.
But I wanted to make it like hard, like not everybody can just hop from world to world, you know? And also the idea of him feeding them things, like in the original book, when they were doing that transition from when they were going to Neverland, you know, how he feeds them the food from the birds' beaks or whatever. I wanted to kind of echo that a little bit. So she has to eat this thing, and it like the effect lasts for a certain amount of time, but it lets her like not go mad in the whole horrible like in between zone. And it lets her see the portals and all of this. So yeah,
I like that in this it's a whole nother realm, whereas in the original it's like, oh, they're traveling to like some remote island.
right. Yeah,
I like the addition of the Slough balls. Blah 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 blah.
it's hard to say. I'm probably not even saying it right, honestly. I like the Celtic pronunciation is probably like slough or something. I don't know. I have Irish roots, but I do not know how to say these things sometimes. I just spell them, and then I'm like, I don't have to pronounce it, but obviously now and then I do. So
I am recording with the Irish folklore podcast, so maybe I'll ask them, and I'll be like, hey,
you should, and then let me know. Or I could it's probably somewhere online. I probably should have looked that up before we started talking.
It's fine.
I sound like an idiot now.
Well, it's like the Hermione thing, you know, where everyone was like mispronouncing it, and then like, you know,
right,
they went to go and do the movies, and it's like, oh,
yep. Or like, I know it's recent, but I always pronounced it Rysand in my head for Sarah J. Maas's books. You know, I always pronounce it wrong in my head. Reading those.
I only listened to the audiobooks, so imagine my surprise when I read how they were spelled. And I was like, huh. Like Feyre. I assumed there was an A at the end of that. And then they're like E. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. When I read them, I was like, it was fair and rice to me. Which is so dumb. It sounds awful.
You're like, oh, the delicious dinner combination.
So when I found out how it was a learning curve, I was like, oh, I have to retrain my brain now. Anyway.
I know.
That's my embarrassing book reader confession, I guess.
Well, at least you're better than me, because I sometimes, if I can't read the names, I just give them letters. Where I'm like, yeah, that's F.
That's good old R there.
Good old R. We love R. Or it's like if they don't give me like a descriptor, or they give me one that I don't agree with, I just kind of imagine them as like a hot blob. Where they'll be like, oh, you know, because I'm reading this book right now, and I messed up two of the character descriptions, so I was imagining this guy very different, and then they were like, oh yeah, and he moves his blonde hair. I'm like, blonde hair? No.
Where'd that come from?
I'm like, whoa, put the hair dye down, sir. Or that they actually described someone as having hazel hair, and I was like, what? What is hazel hair?
No, that doesn't work. Because hazel is supposed to be like, it's brown with like greenish tints in it. That's the kind of eyes it is.
Yeah, the only thing I can imagine is maybe there's like a hair dye situation going.
Maybe. Or maybe they just thought hazel was more like a lighter brown.
Maybe? Like mousy?
Like brown with a bit of gold to it?
I don't know. But I got very confused.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I've done things in my books like that too. Like, I think one time I meant liquefying and I put liquidating, and I think that's still out there in one of my books. And I can't for the life of me remember which book I put that in.
I'm gonna have
I can't remember if I ever fixed it, but
I'm gonna have like 10,000 editors. My entire book budget's gonna be editing. I do stuff like that all the time.
There is stuff, man. I'm like, oh, despite, I mean, I have people who help me with the beta reading and whatever, and Word docs, Google Docs, my English degree. I go through it a million times. By the end, I'm like so sick of the story. It's like, I've read this book enough times.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's get it out of here.
So me, I like write the book and I'm like, okay, it's done, and then I'm like editing.
Oh, that small part of it.
Yeah. Well, it's like I used to write when I was like growing up. I would write like these like 50 chapter stories, like write my heart out, and then I'm like, all right, that's enough of that. Tuck it away now, Anyways, so I did want to ask you what the inspiration for the Eldritch was.
I don't know. I've always liked the kind of, I mean, I think there's stuff like this in like horror movies, in more gothic lit, right? These kind of amalgamated sort of creatures that have just been around forever, and they're sentient. What was that movie? There's a movie on Netflix that has one of these. I've watched it recently. It's a horror movie, and it's these guys, they're friends. They go into this forest in, what is it, Sweden or Norway or something, and there's like an eldritch creature there, and it's got like all these arms and stuff. And I actually watched it after I wrote this.
Oh,
but
really?
That is probably the closest thing. I don't know, but it's like, in old folklore, you have these just sort of morph together, like an eldritch god type thing, various parts assembled, in this weird way that's just so other, and it's horrifying, but you can feel the power of the thing. So I just wanted her to be super old, like this creepy goddess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. I really like the addition of the Eldritch. Because I like it where it's like, they're like, oh, the Eldritch is falling out of power. And then it's like Eldritch sweeping through the halls, doom following in her wake. And she just like, I like that scenery. Like, I would, okay, maybe I'm toxic. I don't know. I'd read a book about the Eldritch.
Yeah.
100%. Because.
Yeah. And I was kind of thinking, like, she is weaker now. So imagine how powerful she would have been, like, back when. And when you get to Hades, this is not really a spoiler, but the Titans in Greek mythology, like just these enormous, ultra powerful, like creator type, entities, really. So in my mind, she's kind of on a level with them, like she and the Titans and like maybe some other things out there in these realms, are the oldest of the entities in the universe, And eventually, they start to fade a little bit. But, I just wanted that kind of like sweeping sense of power, creepiness.
Like, I was imagining, like, she has, like, a cloak on, and where the back of her cloak is, like out of a wake, it's just, like, dark,
Yeah.
Like, taking over the whole area that she's in. And I really like the addition of how magic works in the Fae realm. Like, did you pull that idea from anywhere, or is that something where you just, like, needed a way the Eldritch came in?
As far as like it being a fabric and she can feel them pulling on the threads, I like to think I came up with that. It felt like I was just coming up with it on the spot. Like you said, I may have unconsciously drawn inspiration from somewhere. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's thought of magic as like, a thing with threads that it feels like something someone's probably thought of before. But anyway, it felt was unique to me in the moment. But yeah, I did want her to have a confrontation with Peter, and so I was like, how can, well, she can sense when he pulls on it, but I also wanted to make it so like magic and fairy, while super powerful, is not limitless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's kind of like they're all sharing the same tapestry of magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so
I like that it's what is that called? Open source?
yes,
Yeah.
that is such a good way to put it. Exactly.
I was trying to think of like when
Exactly.
countries do that like communal gardening too, but I couldn't remember what that's called.
I love that you said open source. That is such a good way to put it.
You're just like, let me jot that down really quick.
I know, right? I actually am going to jot it down because that is hilarious. I'm going to tell my husband you said that. He'll think that's hilarious. He's all about open source stuff.
When you
Anyway.
write the Fae Realm one, if Peter does not say, yeah, you know how like a little open source? And
I'm gonna have to put that in something now, and I'll credit you in the back. Thanks for that idea.
I want to read it, and I'm gonna scream, and then I'm gonna call you.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
And then so my last question was, how important is it for you to stay kind of close to the original book for you?
Well, I think I went pretty far.
Yeah.
I went really, really far. I guess it depends on how much I like the original.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think in retellings, since obviously retellings have been done like millions of times by now,
Mm-hmm.
tales are retold all the time, especially the main fairy tales, but even something like Peter Pan has had a number of retellings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's important to pick things up and twist them around,
Mm-hmm.
and since I wanted it to fit in my own universe anyway, I did go pretty far from the source material. I guess it also depends on certain things in the original, like we talked about the whole like racism parts of the original. So obviously you don't want to do any of that. I had to deal with that in my Headless Horseman thing too, because I don't know if you know that the short story it was based on has some very racist bits in it.
Yeah, I haven't read that one.
Basically, Katrina's father, all his wealth is built on the backs of the people who work for him, they're enslaved basically. And so I wanted to, when I did my Headless Horseman thing, I wanted to address that a little bit. Like, this is why her family is so wealthy, So I feel like it's important in retelling to like be conscious of your source material, and like if there's anything truly problematic in it, either eliminate it completely or kind of carefully address it a little bit, But yeah, I usually go pretty far from the original. I think it's just like I take the main concept and I just go woo. Like my Dark Mermaid book, I was originally going to do a gender swapped Little Mermaid, but anybody who's read that one, the Teeth in the Tide, anybody who's read that, it's like, well, no, it's nothing. It's nothing like the Little Mermaid. That was like the little seed of the idea at the beginning, but it's way off.
I know. I've been following you for so long. I remember when that cover came out.
Yeah.
Because I've been following you since you put out the Phantom of the Opera retelling.
Aw.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm sorry, I lose track of people sometimes.
Fine, Twitter's a big place. And I also am not very engaging. I'm just like, oh, that's cool. And then I like had you on Facebook, and I remember Teeth and Tide coming out, and I was like, oh my god, this cover is so cool. And I think I commented on that one, but then it's like I keep like disappearing into the void for a little bit.
It's also like people's names sometimes are different on different platforms. Like, and so I lose track of, it's like, oh, you're the same. I have people who are on my cover design page that I know on Twitter, but I had no idea because their names were completely different. And then they were like, hey, I'm also so-and-so over here, Oh, okay.
I did a whole rebrand too, like last October, because it's like I went from the blog, or not 2 Octobers ago now. I went from the blog, so it was like Rachel, Barely Bookish, or Rachel, whatever that line thing is called, Barely Bookish, and now it's all just Barely Bookish, and my face is gone, all that kind of stuff. Like I just did a
Yeah.
whole rebrand on everything. So it's like, I feel like a lot of people were like, who's this new person I follow?
Aw. I know people change their profiles on Twitter. I'm like, what? Who are you? They change their little picture.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I
Oh, you have
know.
the same name as this person I know.
I followed
Um,
someone who did like from Wider Lifts that I really liked, and they changed their profile and their name and at the same time, and I was like, I don't know who you are.
that's probably not a good marketing move, honestly. Or like even just a good friend move was like change one at a time. Or like maybe tell everybody weeks in advance like
Mhm.
that you're changing.
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
like I also disappear for a long time on Twitter, so it could have been one of those things where like they announced it and then
Yeah,
I missed
that's
it.
possible. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
like,
also
oh
possible. The algorithm is not your friend sometimes, right?
no. It's like I want it like pinned right at the top where if anything says anything like has changed, just
Yes.
throw that at the top for me. Like
Yep.
you remember like old Tumblr days where if you changed your username, like nothing linked back to you anymore? So
I
yeah,
was never on there,
oh
so I
really?
don't know.
Yeah, old Tumblr, like basically, you know how like we have the at our
No.
usernames
Right,
that don't
right, right,
change,
right.
or if you do change it, it's links everything.
Right,
Old
yeah.
Tumblr didn't relink anything.
That is the worst.
Yeah, so when you like change your name, it's like everything on the internet got lost.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
especially if you're like a big person.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
So it was like big announcements are like, "Hey guys, this is my new name," and they like pinned it to the top and everything.
Right.
Or they had it like for a long time when they would go through the transition, they'd have name and then formerly known as in like
Got it.
parentheses.
That seems helpful.
Yeah. But anyways, that's kind of all the questions I had. Did you have anything else
Yeah.
you wanted to highlight, talk about, mention? Not to
Um,
put you on the spot, but kind of.
I don't think so. Other than the fact that, I wanted Peter to not be like stealing the kids for no reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I had the whole like Hook wants people for their powers. And I guess there is more to explore, I guess, in that because, we never see this home base, wherever his home base was, or he's been keeping them and training them and whoever it was that was aging them up for
Mhm.
him. I never did tie that thread off. So I will probably at some point,
Part 3.
bring Hook back into something.
Good.
We'll see. I don't know. But it's like, if I make the Cowardly Lion guy, the guy who I'm thinking is good, Otis, if he's going to be the Cowardly Lion, he's going to have to get off that planet and go somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, I honestly have like this list of things to work on, so I have no idea when I'll get back to that universe, but I will.
You're gonna start needing some red thread here soon.
And after the Apollo book, I'm gonna do the Nightmare guy. Yeah, the Nightmare King guy, the one that she meets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
So his thing is coming for sure. I really do need to do him because there's a thread from Apollo that's left untied and goes right into his
Nice.
thing. So
He's my type.
Yes. Cold, dark, and mysterious and very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Very handsome.
We love a sad boy. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining me and
Sure.
talking about your book with me, even though I'm sure it was weird.
Thank you. You actually made it fun. It wasn't as, I get shy, nervous, awkward. I don't know. But this was good. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad. I had so much fun reading it. You will get text from me as I read the rest of the series. It's at this point inevitable. If there's any way that I can figure out how to like bring these like together more, we'll do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. Where can people find you and all the things that you're doing?
Okay, so I am on Twitter at Rebecca F. Kenney, and that's Kenney. I know that gets tricky, but Rebecca F. Kenney 1 on Twitter. And then on TikTok, I think I'm just Rebecca F. Kenney. And then on Instagram, I'm Rebecca F. Kenney Books. I need to I think I've said this before. I need to make it all the same. But on each of those, you'll find my link tree. So that gives you a way to hop quickly to, usually I put whatever I'm working on currently or whatever's newest toward the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then like as you scroll down, you'll see the links to the other books. Or you can go on Amazon. I have an author page there. You can search for any of the titles that you're interested in, and they'll be right there.
Yeah. Please check out more books.
Yes. Oh, I also have a newsletter. I need to talk about that more, but I always forget. But I do have a newsletter, and if you sign up, you get a free little novella, my They Pied Piper retelling.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. Once again, I apologize for my nasally voice right now. If you want to help support this podcast, please consider joining the Patreon. It is donation based for so for as low as $1 a month, you get access to a lot of cool stuff, and you get to join the Discord. And I'm probably gonna make some goals here soon, so let me know what you want. Like, just tell me, and I'll try and make it happen. Okay. If you want to find me, I am at Barely Bookish on literally everything. I am everywhere, and I got that name on everything. And I am also on Twitch, and I do some running sprints. Not this week, because, again, I'm under the weather. So, why do we call it under the weather? Is it because, like, you get sick in the rain? Is that why? I don't know. If somebody knows, let me know. Just, like, message me or tag me in something. If you have, like, a document about it, that'd be cool too. That doesn't matter. Okay, you guys have a lovely day. We're going to talk about the Aeneid next week, and I'll catch you all real soon. Okay, thanks. Bye. Our logo is designed by my little sibling Sarah. Our theme song is by Raphael Crux, and I'll catch you guys on the flippity flip. Bye.